This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we take a look at the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 25th of March, 2020, and I am DM.
I am Tuam.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines this morning, here they are. In the Star, stay at home to save your own life. In the Standard, lock Kenyans home. And in the Daily Nation, state seeks 115 billion shillings to bail out economy.
Right.
This is where we are on the 25th of March. Corona is still with us. And in the Star, we are being told of basically being updated of the news press conference that happened yesterday. Mutahi Kagwe told us we have additional cases, so now we're at 25 cases. They're also a bit speculative in telling us that Uhuru might need to lock down the 4 high-risk counties. Nairobi, Kisumu, Kilifi,
and Kwale.
And Kwale, I think. And then, that basically the government of Kenya is trying to get testing kits into the country, so that we can test a lot more people, and find out our level of exposure.
Let me ask you guys: do you think there are more people infected with this disease? Because if the Rwandese,
I think so.
If the Rwandese are telling us 3 guys landed from Kenya, and they tested for corona, and yet we did not test them here, they would have been under quarantine. Then it possibly is that we have more people infected than we know.
Absolutely.
And that to me is a ticking time bomb.
And that's why testing is so critical.
Could we also be deliberately not wanting to know? Burundi, by the way, has declared 0 infections. What you don't know doesn't exist.
But also, Burundi, I think, has been on lockdown for like the last 10 years. So, really. As a population under their president.
It's true.
So you're not likely to get people being indisciplined and moving around.
Absolutely.
The Standard is telling us more of the same thing. In fact,
the headline, let's put that in the parking bay.
The headline is very related to the Stars. They're saying lock Kenyans home. And they're borrowing from some leaders like Ali Hassan Joho, who says that people should stay home and borrow from Wuhan's example, where there was a total lockdown, which which contained the disease in the end, and now they are free of corona. But then there is a contrary opinion by Aidan Duale, and he's saying that the time is not ripe for a lockdown because the government working committee led by CS Mutahi Kagwe has everything under control. So we as Kenyans should just follow their instructions.
Although there's contradicting evidence coming out, there's people at the airport who are saying that things are very chaotic over there. So folks are landing, but it's not very clear where they should go. They go they put into certain rooms for a short period of quarantining. And they're supposed to be keeping a distance of 1.52 meters. It's not even working. Everybody ends up being cramped in the same. So a lot of confusion we're seeing right here, and I think there's a lot of slippages with enforcing the directives of government right now.
And let me tell you, I have a sneaky suspicion that this is deliberate. You see, Mutahi Kagwe does not carry a pair of handcuffs. He cannot arrest people. He's not an enforcer. He can only say this is the government policy. All right. The man behind the enforcement arm is one called Fred Matiang'i. Now, if people are misbehaving at entry points called airports, that they're not being, like the bulldozed, like they're being bulldozed in Uganda, then it means someone is sabotaging this. And I think it would require the president's hand in telling Matiang'i to please move in with a little bit of force, because Kenyans understand force. If you come in with force, then someone is sabotaging Mutahi Kagwe.
So the buck stops with CS Matiang'i.
CS Matiang'i. You see, when this ad hoc committee of Mutahi Kagwe presented their findings to the National Security Council, which Matiang'i sits into, it was agreed that Matiang'i provides backup to this committee. Backup does not include NYS. You know, but these fellows will not be listened to. You put GSU people there and you ensure each and every person coming out of a plane enters a bus.
Yeah. So we have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. Are they topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally thoughtful or just plain lazy?
Yeah.
Of course they're repetitive, but given the times, it calls for repetition.
Absolutely.
Important messaging needs to be continually put out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so we have the Daily Nation.
Yes.
That's talking about a bailout.
Yes. State seeks 115 billion shillings to bail out economy. Now, the central bank governor, and I don't know whether it's under his purview to tell us that we need 1.5 billion shillings from IMF and World Bank. That is actually reserved for Treasury, CS Treasury. But anyway, he's the one who said it, and I think we are in the red. $1.2 billion, they call it emergency assistance, is actually a bailout. And you can see the reason why Uhuru Kenyatta does not want to completely shut down Kenya. Because should he shut down Kenya, then we are in the red. We will have social disorder. And you know what? Who would be the biggest beneficiary of social disorder?
Whoever wants to be president after him. Anyway, a lockdown is necessary, but a lockdown cannot come without relief.
True.
But what the Daily Nation is telling us is that we don't even have that money for the relief. I saw that the United States, they have reached a historic stimulus deal of $2 trillion.
Dollars.
$2 trillion, which they will pump into the economy that, of course, has been adversely affected by Corona. So Kenya, we're not in a position to do that.
We are not in a position to do that.
But at the same time, we cannot have, given our context, we cannot have lockdown without relief. We cannot have lockdown without the government then substituting the incomes of wage earners and businesses. I think this calls for a time for the president to practice some sort of political banditry. He has to be a gangster president. Like General, you always tell us the story, General Park of South Korea in 1964. He was responsible for beginning to take South Korea from a third world country, as they call us, to a first world country. And what did he do? He compelled industrialists to contribute to the intentions of government. This is a time now when Uhuru Kenyatta, if he does not have money to provide relief during lockdown, this is the time where he should compel industry. But he should also compel, he should also get money from the proceeds of corruption. If we're saying we lose, how much do we lose in corruption every year?
What, about 100 billion shillings?
About 100 billion. He's the president and he has the organs. He gets the X-files of those looters and then he tells them, look, you give 1 billion to 100 of them.
But you see, I think, again, desperate times call for desperate measures. I agree with you. The president should work with a bazooka pointing at corporate Kenya. But as well, I think corporate Kenya should come voluntarily and say, look, we can be able to meet some of these costs. If government cannot be able to do this, we can put people in their houses in informal settlements by giving them daily food packages. We can do that.
This is where the government then says that we will, in lieu of that, give you tax breaks, so you're not losing a lot of money. But for the corrupt people, the bazooka is that he's the president. He can declare a state of emergency and say that now people can be detained without trial for 58 days or whatever if you're deemed to be a threat to national security.
Absolutely. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. So who do we give the headline to?
I want to be different today and say the Daily Nation.
I want to give the Daily Nation as well.
Yeah, for this reason, the other two are platitudes. They're saying the same thing over and over. It's important, but this the Daily Nation is giving us new information.
Yes. Fantastic. And so, on to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. We also have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the cartoons. Are they humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally, effective or just plain lazy?
In the Star, Ozone has drawn a family that is huddling together, holding on for dear life on a balloon with dots on it. And then presenting them is the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he's saying 4G. And he says, hang on, You are now online. And the family grudgingly or sarcastically says, just what we needed to stay afloat. And of course, all around are balloons in the form of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
This is very good sarcasm for for a situation that was very that inspired a lot of anger, I suppose.
But you know what, my friends, you know, I want to defend Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta has taken a bullet for Kenyans, and I told you why yesterday. You see, it's very hard for us to act in the position of being when we are broke, the way we are broke. And therefore, what he had to do is dog whistle to Western capital to please come forward and give us some money, because there is none.
This is a neo-colonial approach. That is a neo-colonial approach. Be innovative like General Park and get that money.
Well, beggars are not choosers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He shouldn't be a beggar.
Okay.
Gado. Gado has, this is yet another picture, just like he did yesterday. And here we have a doctor or a surgeon. And he's pointing at us and saying, you are not the front line in this battle. We are the last line of defense. We, the medical fraternity. The front line of this epidemic is you, the people in the community, tasked with the challenge of keeping each other safe. Very good messaging.
Very good.
Really good messaging. Good cartoon. In fact, I think it should be printed and
framed
and printed
and put on the wall of Kenya.
Put on the wall of all the walls in Nairobi and all the hotspots.
Yeah, I think Gado has really
very good.
He's risen to the occasion. This is a time where he's put aside humor and sarcasm and has chosen to use his platform to educate and to do a call for action.
Call for action.
And now you have Ndula, the Daily Nation, and he has a drawing of houses that are supported by Arks, called Arks, Noah's Ark. And up there is a looming storm called COVID-19. And I think he's trying to depict a situation where it has not even started, the storm has not begun. We are yet to go through it, but it's coming. You know, it's the camp before the storm. And the caption there from all the Arks is hashtag I will stay home.
That's nice. So he's saying our homes are our arcs.
Yes. And for as long as you stay in the ark, you shall survive. Like
absolutely.
Like for as long as there's food in the ark.
For as long as there's food in the ark. Maybe the balloons can also be used to give us relief food and testing kits and what have you.
Good luck.
Guys, I love
sarcasm 101.
I actually thought that was the purpose of the balloons before I heard the 4G thing. I actually loved all the cartoons. A combination of effective, satirical, informative, good taste. So I think we award all the cartoons the winning cartoon. Fantastic. And so what is our final thought?
And today, our final thought, it is inspired by a book entitled The Secret State, A History of Intelligence and Espionage by Colonel John Hughes Wilson. And today we shall be looking at chapter 5 of the book.
Yes, and actually section 5 of the book is on technology. And the beginning of the chapter is titled on SIGINT, signal intelligence. And he begins by telling us what it is. Signal intelligence is just that, signal intelligence, and under it is communication intelligence, or COMINT, and also LINT, which is electronic intelligence. This is the communication from signals that are directly used in communication.
Right.
So the author says that reading other people's correspondence is as old as literacy itself. People have always wanted to know what other people are writing to each other.
That's right.
And because of that, attempts to disguise texts and ciphers have been used from time immemorial. People have also responded to that by hiding what it is that they're sending to other people. So he differentiates between code and cipher. And he says code can be anything from symbols and dots to modern strings of zeros and ones, like the Morse code. And then ciphers is the substitution of one letter or one symbol for another.
So
the word cryptography means the science of codes, and it comes from the Greek word crypto, which is secret, and then graphos, which is writing. So the book gives us a quick historical timeline of exactly that, cryptography, dating back to the simple methods of Julius Caesar, which was substitution, using the one letter of the alphabet to represent another. But then that was very easy to decode. For instance, if it was in English and somebody sends a message that are substituted, you can begin by finding the most common vowel, which in the English language is E. So you just see which symbol has been repeated more than others, and you found your E. Then you work backwards to your A, which is the second most repeated. So for that reason, cryptography grew more advanced. By the late 14th century, secret writing actually needed coding machines to decipher. By the 17th century, England was so advanced in cryptography and deciphering that General Oliver Cromwell, who led the country then in the the English Civil War, could read almost all of his enemies' messages like an open book, which is very frustrating to them. By the Crimean War, England was still ahead in intelligence. In fact, they cracked Russia's very difficult signals. Thanks to Charles Babbage, an English inventor, amongst other things, he built a sort of primitive computer which incorporated algorithms by a lady called Ava Lovelace, who is actually considered the first computer programmer. She was a mathematical genius.
In the 1800s.
In the 1800s. Are you finding that hard to believe?
Amazing. A bit hard to believe, but yeah.
It is true. So by the 19th century, the discipline the discipline of cryptography had advanced so much that there were even principles developed in 1885 by a guy called August Kirchhoff, which are still relevant today. The number one principle: any code system must be practically, if not mathematically, indecipherable. Goes without saying. It should not be easy to read. In fact, it should be impossible to read by people to whom the message is not intended. Number two, it should not require secrecy. And by this, he means that if it falls on enemy hands, it shouldn't be a problem because they would not be able to comprehend it. So you hide the message in plain sight. It must be possible to communicate and remember the key without using written notes, and correspondence must be able to modify it at will. So the person who reads it shouldn't have another piece of paper or a framework to refer to, because that just makes more moving parts and easier to catch. So that is one of the some of the few things that he tells us in the introduction. It's a very fascinating topic, and there's so much that I can't cover it all in the time that we have.
Allow me to clear my throat.
One must announce in the time of COVID.
Absolutely. So you know, in this part of the book, he's telling us how technology transformed the craft of intelligence. And it really did, particularly in the 20th century. And he gives in the subsequent chapter an example of the Battle of Midway. The Battle of Midway was a battle fought in 1942 between Japan and the United States in the Pacific. This is in the midst of World War II. But before we get into the Battle of Midway, I'll take us back to December 1941, when the Japanese ambushed the Americans at Pearl Harbor. They destroyed 5 of their very good battleships and ruined 3 more.
Disaster.
And that was an operation led by Admiral Yamamoto, the Japanese admiral, distinguished guy. So that happens, and Roosevelt back in the United States is really, really upset at the whole situation, and he wants a revenge mission undertaken immediately. But the admiral that he had appointed, a guy called Admiral Nimitz, was very reluctant to take on a mission because they were still in a very weak position. America had lost over 2,000 soldiers in that one attack. The battleships had been destroyed. So they were really in a weak position.
And Japan would anyway be expecting a retaliation, so they'd be ready.
Precisely. So they'd be ready, they'd be prepared. But anyway, so Roosevelt says, look, the American people are going to be really upset with me if we don't manage to avenge this attack.
Yes.
And so in about April of 1942, they decide to gather and muster all the energy and the resources that they have. They summon a few aircraft carriers towards Japan, and then they launch a few tactical bombers, and they land in Tokyo, and they bomb Tokyo. Quite a bit of it. And in retaliation, the Japanese say that, look, we have to take out the entire naval fleet of the United States. So at that point, they're really upset about the whole situation. They've been consolidating power in the Pacific, from Ceylon to Vietnam. They've just been acquiring territories. They were the undisputed power of the Pacific, and they wanted that to remain as is. So Yamamoto puts in a scheme, devises a plan. They're going to obliterate the entire U.S. naval fleet, and to do that, they decide to lure the Americans to an island called Midway. Now, Midway is an island between Hawaii and Japan. Basically Japan, right? And so the plan is to lure them in by attacking Midway, so that they bring their ships in, they bring their aircrafts in, and before you know it,
it's an ambush.
They're going to be ambushed by the Japanese. But luckily, the Americans had been cracking the code of the Japanese. And around the time that this plan was being schemed, they managed to listen in, and they heard that the Japanese were saying an attack is being prepared sometime in June on a location codenamed AF. So the cryptographers on the American side are like, what is AF? And some of them, because they had lived in Japan, they had a feeling that it was Midway, but they weren't 100% sure. So they decided what they needed to do is to trick the Japanese to basically verify the location of AF. And so they ask Midway, the soldiers at Midway, to send out a message to American headquarters and say that Midway is out of water. Our water pipes are broken, we have no water, we're in a crisis. And later that day, the Americans, the Japanese report back to the naval HQ and they say AF has no water. And so at that point
the power of deduction.
The Americans confirmed by AF they mean Midway. And so on D-Day, the Japanese think that they are going to ambush the Americans at 6:20 a.m. sharp. They begin their assault in Midway. It's a terrible situation. But by about 10:05 on the same day, the Americans come out of nowhere with their naval fleet and air support tactical bombers, and within 5 minutes 6 Japanese carriers are down.
Wow.
And that is how the Battle of Midway ended, and it was a turning point for the Allied powers in the Pacific.
Thanks to intelligence.
Thanks to intelligence.
That's a sweet revenge.
To SIGINT.
SIGINT, absolutely.
SIGINT. Sweet revenge from the American on the Japanese. Huh?
Yeah.
I was looking at a time where the world was at a period called the Cold War. And this was between the US and the Soviets. And now is the last chapters of part 5. And that was the Cuban Missile Crisis and satellites, the beginning of satellites. Now, there was what was called photographic reconnaissance. And they said probably the best moment of it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this is what the time where the Soviets had placed missiles in the western part of Cuba. Now, during this period, there was human intelligence around Cuba and America, and they used to tell the Americans, oh, we hear this chatter that the Soviets are planning on putting missiles in Cuba, but there was no proof that the Soviets were actually doing this. Now, there was a man called Oleg Penkovsky, and this guy was a double agent. He used to work for the CIA and the MI6, and he went to the Americans and he told them, there is chatter that the Soviets are placing missiles in Cuba. So JF Kennedy asked CIA, please, can you just verify this information? Now, JFK sends the US Air Force on a plane called a U-2 plane. Now, this plane is equipped with cameras and can take pictures from up there. and the plane comes back with 928 pictures of missile sites, Soviet missile sites in Cuba. And immediately JFK takes action, and he goes straight to the Security Council and says, see,
here are the images.
Yes, the Russians have actually been placing
missiles in Cuba.
Now, Khrushchev, who was president of Russia then, wanted to spoil for a fight. So Kennedy sent another U-2 plane, and the Soviets shoot it down. And now what actually Khrushchev wanted was for the Americans to pull off their missile sites in Turkey, because they had placed missiles in Turkey. Cut long story short, there was no war, but there was a turning point. After 1962, the Russians, there was emphasis on technical intelligence more than human intelligence, because now you could take pictures and that would be used to verify, and you could take them from very high up in the sky. But there was another thing I wanted to tell you guys. Did you both know that the first animal in space was a dog?
Of course we did.
You knew?
We went to school. Contrary to what you think.
JM does not seem too sure.
No, so I forgot that part of history.
Yeah, so the Russians in October 1957, they launched a space program and a satellite called Sputnik to head up to the sky. This is a small thing the size of a football. But shortly after, they launched another big one. And this one could fit a live dog. And this dog, they called it Laika. It was a Russian dog. And it was the first dog to get the first animal to get to space.
Did it ever come back then?
No.
Okay.
It died there. I think it's still somewhere
floating around.
Yeah, with some asteroids. But what's the point of the dog story? You see, the Americans were very perplexed as to how Russia could actually take a payload up there in space. And what that meant is, if Russia could take a dog to space, they probably could take a nuclear weapon, an ICBM missile in sorts. Now, by virtue of that action, the Americans continued to enhance their space program so much so that they could actually control their satellites from Earth.
The space race, that was the beginning of the space race.
But you can imagine all these technological advancements was because two parties were getting at each other. So I don't think there's anything wrong with war sometimes.
Well, so on a day that we had a winning headline from the Daily Nation and winning cartoon from all the dailies, I will leave you with this quote from Napoleon Bonaparte. He says, "War is 90% information." Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Have a good evening.